Exploration of energy, waving and whipping through. Saw you dancing and sparking a string of DNA in an observative measure of mayhem. Mayhem, 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 mayhem. Mayhem. Mayhem.
Good evening.
Mayhem.
This is the Dominance Academy.
Mayhem. Mayhem. Mayhem.
And I'm your host, Mr. Justin. Hope you're doing well. Let me just get my stuff together. This is a track that I made a long time ago with my friend Hillary, who was a poet and a spoken word artist. I was very, very high when making all of my music. Yeah. And I found out that my songs sound better when you're stoned. But I think all music does, doesn't it? But let me just get my stuff together and we can get going. So yeah, I hope you're having a good week so far. It breaks into some, heavier jungle type beats. But anyways, I was talking to my brother, like he sent me this video that somebody had cut up. It was some like cartoon or some shit like that. And it was some cartoon, and then someone had pasted in some lyrics or something like that from some rapper or whatever. And it brought back this memory of me being in my freshman year of college. And somehow I got placed in the dorm that were like all like the wealthy kids went. And so there's me, this weirdo artist, hanging out with like all these kids that were bound for sororities and fraternities and shit like that. And my next door neighbor was, there's many different dorms. They all had different styles, but this one was like where all like the posh kids went. And I got stuck there, blue hair, spikes and shit like that, tattoos and whatnot. And so anyways, my next door neighbor, this guy, Steve, he was a dealer from California, and he would get like ounces and ounces of weed in cereal boxes. And how that passed through the USPS, like that's how he would get them. I think maybe he put like cayenne pepper or whatever around it. But anyways, and we would smoke in his room. And, back in the day, you didn't want your room to smell like weed. So we'd take the cardboard tube that was, the cardboard tube that a paper towel, and you take dryer sheets and stuff them in one end of the tube, So when you take your hit of weed and you blow it through that tube, and it brings all the dryer sheet smell, and it like still smells a little bit like weed, but definitely not like, you know, if you didn't have that. And so we'd smoke in his room, and this was around the time when like Fuji's The Score was really big, and Wu-Tang, and so we'd be listening to, you know, like that era, that 90s era of rap, I guess, or 2000s, and put on, you know, some sort of cartoon, like any cartoon would be fine. And it would, in our stoned brains, the lyrics and the mouth movements of the cartoons would like link up perfectly. And we were sitting like losing our minds and laughing and getting down with the music. But yep. Yes. Good times when the only thing you have to worry about is just studying well. You know? Yeah. Doing your shit. But I was in art school, so basically just like make cool art. And that's all that was necessary. So, see, I wanted to talk about psychopaths, psychopathy, and you know, and why women really like psychopaths. And maybe it's because they are psychopaths. Perhaps it's because they are psychopaths. Because here's, you know, anyways. So here's the thing. I was reading this. I saw this meme, and a friend of mine, he posted this meme, something about, you know, women being psychopaths, or like new studies show that girls are more psychopathic than once believed. And so I did some research, and it turns out that this is true. All right. And the reason is not like there's like a, you know, a surge, like a surging thing of like female psychopaths. That's not it. It's that we're now understanding, oh, it's not the same between men and women. That so we were primarily studying males in psychopathy, and looking at the behaviors and the things that they would do as like a means of determining if, like, you know, that a person is psychopathic. And instead they were like, oh, wait a second, we can't use the same methods and models to study female psychopaths because they don't behave exactly the same. So with male psychopaths, right, the diagnostic framework was based around basically male criminals. So the traits are modeled around how men externalize aggression, dominance, lack of conscience, and things of that nature. And you know, women don't express psychopathy that way, which means the tools literally weren't designed to detect them. Okay, and so, you know, like men, it shows up with physical violence, threats and intimidation, impulsivity, crime, overt dominance, public defiance, rule breaking, confrontation, stuff like that. And this behavior of this is the behavior psychopathy checklist that we're built around, especially the Hare PCLR. So the female psychopathy is different. It's social, emotional, and interpersonal aggression. So they show psychopathy through covert manipulation, seduction as control, emotional exploitation, triangulation, playing the victim strategically, destroying reputations, behind-the-scenes sabotage, chronic lying in relationships, weaponizing vulnerability, and eroding someone's sense of reality, otherwise known as gaslighting. And it's quiet instead of explosive. It's indirect instead of being head-on. And it's relational instead of being physical. And so, you know, men, you know, we can dominate through force. Women, they dominate through connections and relational stuff. And, you know, they'll read and leverage insecurities, mirror empathy, and then weaponize it. So the female psychopath strength is psychological infiltration, long-term manipulation, controlling access to affection, approval, or sex. So her violence isn't physical, it's more on an intimate level. And so men will show low affectation and women will mimic affectation. So like a male psychopath, he's cold, flat tone, lack of empathy, low emotional range. Female psychopaths, they will fake the warmth, and they mimic empathy so that they can seem more caring than average women. This is why they bypass detection. They look nurturing. They play emotional caretakers. They mirror your feelings, and they charm and disarm. And so clinicians used to interpret this as women aren't psychopathic, but in reality, they're just better at camouflage, or just maybe not necessarily hiding it, but more so it's expressed entirely differently. And doctors weren't really looking for those markers, okay? Because they're just so easily blended into regular everyday behavior versus like some dude flipping the fuck out with a giant Bowie knife, that's like obviously something that doesn't fit. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but I don't want to like go very far, but I was looking into psychopaths, and as I was like looking into it and reading this friend of mine posted this meme about psychopaths. So we're going to get into a little bit about psychopathy, what it is, why women find it attractive, and then the archetypes that show up in film and why they are attractive. Okay. And so we'll look at those things. So it's a bit of a like a drier class. So you can just sit back and relax, listen. And we'll talk about crazy people. But it's just interesting. It's just really interesting. I don't know. I love this stuff. I love getting into understanding and observing behaviors. And when you get past like the emotional stuff of behaviors of girls, that's when it becomes really interesting. And you can't have genuine interest if you're triggered, or if you're butthurt, or if you're angry, or feeling like you're owed something. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You need to be letting go of all of those things in order to have genuine curiosity and interest. So, one second. There you go. Okay, so a woman's attraction to the psychopath has become one of the most misunderstood dynamics in modern psychology and dating culture, mostly because people rush to label, condemn, or oversimplify an instinct that is ancient, biological, and deeper than most men ever bother to understand. Women don't fall for psychopaths because they're stupid. They don't fall for them because they like being hurt. They don't fall for them because they can't tell the difference between a good man and a bad one. They fall for them because the traits psychopaths project and the wounds that they carry ignite two of the most powerful feminine instincts: the instinct for strength and the instinct for depth. So when a woman encounters a man whose internal world is quiet, no hesitation, no self-doubt, no emotional leakage, her nervous system reads it before she ever consciously does. A man who carries no fear, no shame, seeking behavior moves differently. He speaks differently. He takes up psychological space differently. He doesn't second guess before touching her. He doesn't overinterpret her tone. He doesn't twist himself into complexity to earn her approval. He simply is. And because most modern men are crippled by their own anxiety, timidness, or self-monitoring, a man with that kind of energetic stillness stands out like a bonfire in the darkness. Women feel drawn to him not because of his darkness, but because of his absence of emotional clutter. But that's the only half of the story. The other half, the deeper half, is the one men pretend isn't real or refuse to accept out of fear or discomfort. Women are absolutely drawn to the man who carries visible wounds. the attraction to Beauty and the Beast, or Beauty and the Beast. The Beast wasn't just about his raw strength, his power, or his danger. It was the sense that beneath that monstrous exterior lived a cracked, damaged, deeply feeling heart that had closed itself off. And a woman doesn't just want a strong man. She wants a man with texture, a man whose soul has weight, a man who carries shadows and scars and intensity. She wants a man who didn't live an easy life, who didn't stay soft, who didn't avoid pain, but a man who survived something, or many things. That survival, the way pain reshapes him, creates a gravity no unscarred man can replicate. And just something popped into my head as I was saying this, because I was watching these videos with my son, some guy that my son watches on YouTube. And it's this young black guy who always wears pajamas. Young dude, what's his name? But he always looks like he's ready for bed. Like he wears Crocs and pajamas everywhere he goes. He like goes on tour, and like people lose their minds when they see him, and I don't understand why. Like he just like jokes around with his buddies all day. It's just weird. Like it's like contentless content. But anyways, I was looking at him and looking at all of his friends, and these guys are probably like in their 20s, you know? And I'm like, man, if a strong enough breeze came through, all of these guys would just fly away. Like there is not like even one little shred of grit that you can sense about them. Completely soft. However, you look at girls, and girls these days, they're out. They're doing stuff like they're getting their calluses in, like internally and externally. And they are the ones walking around with the scars. You know what I'm saying? Like either physically or emotionally. There is that texture. There is that depth. And maybe these tables are turning, the things that I'm describing right now. This is for like a certain age. I think maybe the younger ages, it's flipped, where the guys have become super soft and the girls have become super hard. Who knows? Okay. Right, so let's get back into it. So, psychopaths, they mimic this gravity effortlessly because they radiate two seductive illusions: emotional flatness, which feels like self-possession, and hollow ache that feels like hidden pain. Women sense something is off, something damaged, something dark, and it feels like depth, even when it isn't. To the feminine instinct, emptiness and depth feel very similar until investigated. A psychopath's lack of fear looks like courage. His lack of guilt looks like confidence. 1 second, please. Pardon the interruption. Okay. So, so they're aware that there's something off. So to the feminine instinct, emptiness and depth feel very similar until investigated. A psychopath's lack of fear looks like courage. His lack of guilt looks like confidence. And his lack of emotional response looks like composure. Seriously? His impulsivity looks like decisiveness. What is actually emotional deficiency appears on the surface like pure masculine power. But then comes the real hook. He looks like the man who has suffered, even if he hasn't. The feminine is wired to read emotional storylines into behavior, into tone, into posture, into eyes. When she sees a man who is emotionally restrained, unpredictable, and closed off or intense, she feels the hint of a wound, even when that wound is just a void. And make no mistake, that hint is attractive. Women are not drawn to broken boys, they're drawn to broken men. Boys collapse under their wounds. Men, they bury their wounds, they hold them beneath their armor. That combination, strength on the outside, fracture lines on the inside, is magnetic to the feminine psyche. It evokes something primal in her, the desire to understand him, the desire to soothe what lies beneath the surface, the desire to be the one person allowed past his walls, not to fix him in the therapeutic sense, but to reach the part of him the world will never see, to soften what he's hardened, to touch the heart he has always locked away. It's not dysfunction, this archetype. Women are biologically and mythologically drawn to the man who stands in the doorway between light and shadow. And if you remember the Beauty and the Beast, the thing, like his life force, I believe, was this flower that was suspended inside this glass case, right? And he kept that. Like, he kept that hidden away in this very special room, remember? And Belle was not allowed to enter a particular wing of the house because that's where it was. So this is why the Beast works. This is why the tortured anti-hero works. This is why the man with haunted eyes has always had women chasing him, even when he had nothing else going for him. A man who has suffered carries a great deal of weight than a man who hasn't. His eyes don't dart around the room. His smiles look earned. His presence feels grounded. He moves with a seriousness and depth that a carefree man doesn't. His silence has meaning. His intensity has a backstory. He radiates the energy of someone who once felt deeply, so deeply that he had to close himself off to survive. Women taste that story instinctively. And here's the truth a lot of men don't understand, but they should. The attraction is not simply to danger, it's to contained danger. A man who is chaotic, impulsive, or self-destructive, he's not attractive. A man who has mastered his chaos, who has imprisoned it behind discipline, who carries the beast within but doesn't let it run wild, that man's intoxicating. Women want the man who holds the leash of his darkness, not the man dragged by it. Psychopaths project the illusion of this mastery because nothing shakes them. They seem unhurtable. They seem unmovable. They seem unmoved by her emotions, her needs, her expectations. And because modern men crumble under pressure, a man who stays still while the world moves around him looks like a goddamn mountain. But the real goal isn't to become a psychopath or even to act like one. The real goal is to integrate the traits women respond to: the inner calm, the lack of hesitation, the decisiveness, the emotional gravity, the depth, the scars, the danger, into a man who has empathy, who has a conscience, loyalty, purpose, and self-control. A psychopath is a man with an engine and no brakes. A weak man is a man with brakes and no engine. A grounded, powerful man has both, a powerful engine and the discipline to contain it. This is the man women truly long for, not the hollow void of a psychopath, and not the fragile tenderness of an untested boy. The woman wants the man who has been burned but not broken, wounded but not weakened, hardened but not hollowed. She wants the man who carries a storm behind his ribs but never lets it spill blindly into the room. She wants the man who has known darkness but stands in his own light anyways. So when people ask why do women love psychopaths, the better question is, why do women crave a man with power, intensity, depth, mystery, and visible wounds? And why do so many healthy men fail to embody those traits? A woman is not drawn to the psychopath because he is good for her. She is drawn to him because he signals an ancient masculine archetype: the warrior, the beast, the fallen king, the man with demons, the man who's lived through something and came out changed. Your task, and the task of, like all kinds of men, is to become the version of that archetype that isn't hollow, the one who has a heart, the one who has conscience, the one who has purpose, direction, discipline, and the emotional sovereignty, the one who carries the scars with dignity, the one whose darkness is integrated and not chaotic. Women don't want the monster. They want the man who could be a monster but chooses not to be. They want the beast that can be gentle, the warrior that can be soft, the king that can kneel, the damaged heart that can still love. That's the truth behind the myth, and the real explanation for why women fall into the orbit of men who carry both darkness and depth. And that's a blueprint for becoming the kind of man who holds a woman's devotion without ever having to manipulate her biology with dysfunction. The psychopath is an accidental imitation of the archetype. The grounded sovereign man is the real thing. So I wanted to kind of look at some of these archetypes with you guys. So I'm going to have to pop in here and share my screen. Let's get into the screen sharing. Hey there, kitten. Ilya. I can't even pronounce that. Pronounce that screen name. Good to see you guys here. So yeah, let me pop open the screen share. What come on. What is this? Share screen. And which window? No. Okay, this one. Okay. So here's Daniel Craig, right? So they changed James Bond. All right, they changed Bond. Because Bond used to be this like really suave dude. Okay, like nothing but bothered him. He was like, water off a duck's back with everything, right? Nothing bothered this guy. He would be like almost getting cut in half by a laser, and he would still be calm. Okay, but Daniel Craig changed it. Okay, the Casino Royale, Skyfall. This is the damaged, wounded soul kind of archetype. And these are the men whose visible or implied emotional scars create that impossible to ignore magnetism. And this Craig's Bond, he wasn't suave, right? He was beat up. And I think they purposely chose that idea, like to give the idea that Bond, he served his time, and spending all these years doing the things that he was doing, it took a toll, right? So, there's like dead lover, trauma, cold exterior, flashes of deep feeling. And women, they love the pain behind the stoicism. They really do. All right, so let's look at the next. Let's go back in here. Oh, here's another one. All right, Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren was another one of these. The wounded darkness fantasy from Star Wars. Anger, torment, craving connection, but unable to express it. And women went insane for him. When this character first came out, girls went crazy for this character. And he sort of embodied this rage wrapped around a broken heart sort of thing. And he was very pouty. He pouted a lot. And you could tell he was not fully of this like grown man sort of thing. He was still slightly of a fledgling or like in between. All right, so here's a classic one, different one. All right, let's go here. Logan. Okay, Logan was another one of these. Okay, another one of these like broken, sort of wounded warrior. He's always had that blueprint, right? This is a classic wounded warrior blueprint. Scarred, haunted, aging, grieving, raging, yet fundamentally, like at the heart of it, he was a good guy. Okay, and about him as well. They worshiping this archetype because his suffering, it humanizes his power. And that's what a lot of this does, the suffering. But let's take a look at some other like psychopathic type archetypes. Okay, so this one's not necessarily psychopathic, all right, but it's kind of close, which is Tyler Durden. One of Brad Pitt's like one of my favorite actors of all time. He doesn't change his look very much, but he changes his, like he just is able to, he's got a wide range. And what convinced me of that was when I saw him in 12 Monkeys, and he was playing that utterly insane guy. Really good. But yeah, he was a great actor, man. Love this guy. But anyway, so not technically a psychopath in the clinical sense, but absolutely in the archetypal sense, that he was displaying behaviors that were very attractive, that psychopaths often do. So like being fearless, chaotic, charismatic, untamed, impulsive, self-created intensity. And women could feel the danger and the self-possession. And this lights them up. Okay. But, but the reality is that like being with someone who's like this is, there's no choice but to get pulled into their storm, and then you don't live. Only the eye of the storm survives. And that's about it. Let's look at another one. Okay. Here's like actual psychopath. Okay, we've got, what was his name? Sam? Joe Goldberg. So we got Joe here from the show You, who's a story about an actual murdering psychopath. And this one was interesting because it took on more of like a modern twist on it, where he wasn't this, over the top sort of psychopath the way, say, like Tyler Durden was, but he was soft spoken, he was bookish, he was easygoing, and the girls again loved this character. He was like catnip for them. And it's because he embodies the gentle on the outside, terrifying on the inside thing. It's that polarity. Okay. So you can see that there's a theme here. I mean, except for Tyler Durden, but with a lot of these characters, there's a polarity involved. Okay. Beauty and the Beast, crazy rough beast on the outside, softy on the inside. And then here with Joe, it's sort of like flipped. He's softy on the outside, but he's a homicidal maniac on the inside. So he's calm and controlled, obsessive, unwavering focus. And these are intoxicating traits. Very fun, unless they're lethal. In this case, very much so. All right, let's look at another one. Classic one here. Okay. You guys have seen this movie, The Secretary. All right. One of my favorites. And if you haven't seen this movie, it's good. You can get a feel for some pretty strict power dynamics. And funny moments. I find the moments funny anyways. But especially this scene right here. But this is Edward Gray, The Secretary from 2002. And this is like the typical fusion that I'm talking about. So it's a man who's controlled, he's emotionally repressed, sexually dominant, and obviously carrying a hidden pain behind that quiet, controlled exterior. And women love this archetype because he is both dangerous, wounded, restrained, internally crumbling, and externally powerful. One of the closest Hollywood portrayals of the damaged dom is right here in this movie. I gotta watch this movie again. I would like to watch it with somebody who's like appalled by the things that happen in there. Here's a more modern version of these characteristics. Okay, we got Tommy Shelby from the show Peaky Blinders. And, we've got somebody here who has PTSD, trauma, survivor guilt, emotional distance, impossibly calm under pressure. And tons of women fell in love with him because he's like a fortress, and one that like occasionally cracks open. And so when there is that exterior of this fortress-like exterior, like what's going on with Tommy here, there's this itch behind it Like, what's behind that exterior? I want to know. And in their minds, of course, it's like some softy, or there's some pain back there, or some wounds, or he's really gentle, right? That's the idea. Oh, another one just popped into my head. Like, what was it? Come on, let's see, like, what was, not Lord of the Rings, but like Khaleesi, right? With the Iron Throne, Game of Thrones, and she got with that that barbarian character, okay, and he was this like hulking, like tough guy, you know what I mean, and then he eventually got like really, really soft with her, and so you get to see on one end, that character, he was this brutal barbarian type character, and then in like close quarters, or like after spending some time with her, he like softens up, right? And he becomes something much more well-rounded. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, and here's a big classic. Okay, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, and they don't love him because he's a killer, but they loved him because he was a psychopath, showing these things of emotional emptiness, extremely composed, relentlessly decisive, unaffected by judgment, beautiful on the surface but hollow underneath. And he embodies the void that looks like depth, right? But there's really nothing there. It just looks like he's brooding, and he's got like so much going on, but really there's nothing going on, nothing at all. All right, so let's stop the screen. There we go. What's up, Dylan? Good to see you, man. What's up, buddy? Hi. Louis came to visit my big fat pit. So Dylan, this reminds me a lot of King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I remember in that explaining that there is a young positive and young negative of each of these four, something like that. Yeah, there's a developed and underdeveloped version of these things, and they gave names to it as well. Like the young king, who's on the negative young king, is like the impetuous child ruler, and that can get old pretty damn quick. But if you look for King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and then type in The Art of Manliness in the Google search, this will help you out a lot. The book is not that great. It's great in concept, but if you do that search in Google and read the breakdown that the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover made, that the Art of Manliness did on that information, you'll learn quite a bit. It's much better written, and they break it down with like diagrams and all this shit. It's really cool. Yep. What's up, Christian? Or Chris in the chat. Sorry. Yep. Psychopaths. But we see these things. We see these things on like a more like rudimentary level all the time, where guys, nice guys, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I've done everything. I was so good." Or they'll warn guys not to be like that, and they'll say, she'll just go towards the asshole who doesn't pay her any mind. And yeah, there is that draw. There's that draw to the guy who just doesn't give a fuck. And it's I don't know, it sparks a whole host of emotions within the girl I can't probably, again, it's, if I have my sub here talking about these things, like what emotions come up and why do you think they come up? So, but anyways, but I know it's like a layering of different emotions that, why that's so intoxicating for girls. And that's why the asshole wins, why the bad boy wins, but not really, because he doesn't really get her trust. He doesn't get her to open up. He just gets her engaged. It gets her fired up, right? And getting fired up is great, okay, but like fireworks or any kind of fire, it doesn't last forever, okay? It constantly needs fuel in order to burn. And so, like a good bad boy, a skilled bad boy, he will keep adding kindling or keep tossing a bit of gasoline on the fire to keep things lit up. And, the bad boy who just doesn't care, he'll just take that first flare up, fuck a couple times and then just like leave her and just be like, look, I'm done with this. I'm moving on to the next. And, that hurts, and that causes more of a draw where she's like, no, I don't want to be forgotten about. How dare he? Or it makes her feel like, oh no, I'm not good enough. He's tossed me aside. What does this mean about me? That sort of shit. And then there's a seeking of closure for, validation, so they're not like stuck in that hole. But the fact of the matter is that like, being good off rip just really has no benefit. Really doesn't. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be good, but your goodness, you keep reserved. Keep reserved. Or, for those that have earned it. And that's fine. Okay. But don't be giving away Don't be giving away stuff that makes people feel good for free. It just doesn't make sense because free things are not valued. They aren't. But something that somebody has earned and they're aware of them earning it, then it's just much more valued. And that's like everything down the line. No matter what the variable is, no matter what the metric, when we earn shit, we like it better. So don't be nice off the bat. And also don't misinterpret this to mean that you should be a dick off the bat. There should be just nothing. Neutral. Okay? And this is why I say, girls are NPCs. Basically everybody is an NPC to me until you're not. Family, sure, you kind of like come out of NPC land more than others, but if you're to completely get out of it, you basically have to be living in my reality, following the way I think, in line with the things that I do, in line with the values that I keep, the principles that I follow for myself, the codes that I follow, the rules that I behave against. Like all of those things, like that's like basically becoming a shadow or a reflection of me. That's how you earn the good side of me. Okay. And then, based on, of course, living in the dynamic, you also get the darker side of me, which is, the really fun stuff. Okay. Like I'm not just going to spend time planning a scene and, bringing a girl into subspace and giving her all sorts of like physiological and psychological and biochemical experiences for somebody who's not basically like part of my system. It doesn't make any sense. So the light and the dark, Jake gets reserved for those that earn it. It's that simple. Okay. I know that some people, they'll play. Man, this hat is fucking itchy. Ooh, that's better. You know, some people like to play. They go to play parties. They involve themselves in dungeons and things like that. And I don't know. I guess I'm not so impulsive. I'm not so ruled by the experience. I don't know. You know, like one of my clients, he goes to swinger parties because he and his wife are swingers. Or his girlfriend. No, I'm sorry, his girlfriends, longtime girlfriends. They're swingers. And they have a great time. They've worked out all the rules and things like that. And, you know, things flourish. And they're growing within it. And I can see the benefit for them. But I don't know. Like, I'm not so obsessed with, say, spanking that anyone can put themselves on my lap and I'll be satisfied. Like, it's not like that. Okay. I guess I'm not like, you know, like a true spanko is what they're called. Or I'm not, say, high on the level of sadism. One might say, well, you're not a true sadist, right? Because I'm not in it just for delivering the pain. I kind of have to have a reason. I mean, of course, I can deliver pain in a playful way. But for me to like really be with it, right? To really feel, I don't know, like it makes sense to me, okay? Or like I'm vibing with it, is I'm more into like the punitive sort of thing. Like you did something wrong and now there's some punishment involved. So it makes sense to my logic of where it belongs. I'm not such a glutton for, well, pretty much anything. So this sort of thing has to be, like, it has to make sense. And that's how it is in my world. So I can't just like go to parties and stuff and be like, hey, like, you know, what are you into? Oh, I'm into this, I'm into that. Okay, like, you want to go play? And then like doing that sort of thing. Like that would just be so detached for me. Okay. Like I need to see the person. I need to see her eyes like becoming like glossed over because of her being in my sphere, not because I've piqued her adrenaline so much that she's gone into subspace. Like I want to see that without touching her at all. I want to see the subspace, like just the glazing over look in her face just from being next to me. And that's something that like takes time. It takes integration. It takes communication. It takes a lot of like psychological like delayering or delaminating. That's a great way to look at it. And like that's what I'm into, you know. That's what moves me. So I don't know. Am I psychopathic? Maybe. But I think I can come off that way. I don't think I am at all, because I certainly feel and I'm aware of my emotions. But the thing is, like, this is why I'm often preaching so much about how one should control their emotions. Don't wear your emotions on your sleeve. Not at all. You should embody the mountain. You should embody something that is unmoved by anything and everything. It cannot be pushed or broken, shifted. It doesn't change temperature. You know, if it gets wet, it's only surface level. And even if lightning strikes it, just maybe some pebbles will fly, but that's about it. You know, there's no damage. And so that's really where I think a man belongs. He belongs in a place of that kind of stillness. And so as it relates to like psychopaths, it's that unmovedness that makes her go, wait a second. It kind of makes her like double take, because she's so used to so many guys. Like I don't think guys realize how many guys a girl interacts with on a regular basis. Like, let's say, okay, like for example, okay, my sub, she's not engaged with dudes. Like she doesn't like carry on conversations. She's not going out on dates. She doesn't do all that stuff. Okay. It's not part of her lifestyle. And even her, she gets regular DMs from guys who are wanting to start up conversations. Okay. Now let's take like, you know, your regular girl who's into interacting with guys, carrying on with conversations, going on dates, doing this, doing that, hooking up, whatever. The amount of interactions that they have is massive, absolutely massive. And you guys don't realize how much that actually is. Like, there was this one girl that I was seeing, she was living in Canada, and we were lying in bed together, just kind of like relaxing afterwards. And she had her phone out, and I was like, let me see your DMs. Open up your Instagram. And she opened up her Instagram, and it was just scroll, just tons of dudes. Like, I probably saw, I don't know, maybe like 100 to 200 guys, all just saying like, hey, what's up, beautiful, fire this, emoji, eyes, that, whatever. Okay, tons, just scrolling the whole thing. I was like, holy shit. And she's not even, I mean, like, she's cute. She's not even like your, Instagram baddie sort of thing. I mean, she's got a nice rack and a cute face, but she's not like, she doesn't present herself in that kind of way. Usually just like sweaters and tights and shit like that. It's just regular, like, Canadian chick shit. But anyways, so guys don't realize this. And so, but it's all the same. It's just like different variations of the same stuff. And because, like let's say you're you're exposed to like a type of like genre of book, or I say like mystery books, okay? And I'm like, here's a mystery book for you. And you read it, and you're like, oh, that was pretty interesting. And the following week I say, here's another mystery book, and then another, and then another, and then another. And after a while, you stop reading them and you start skimming them, because you get the idea that they're all just variations of the same model, just with slight twists here and there. But the peaks and valleys, how it's going to start, how it's going to end. You get the whole framework of the mystery novel genre, and I can no longer surprise you. Okay? And it just, here's another book, and I'm like, hey, I got another book for you. And you're like, okay, well, let me guess, a mystery novel? And then one time I'm like, no, actually, it's science fiction. And I'm like, oh, science fiction? I've heard about that. What's that? And that's what happens to girls' minds when they come across someone who operates differently, who communicates differently, who gives her this impression that she has no effect on him whatsoever. Like zero effect. Like, almost like he's like, is he dead inside? Is he cold? Like, is he even interested in me? Like, I can't fucking tell. Like, he's here talking to me. He's maybe flirting with me a little bit, but I get the sensation that he's just like, is he crazy? Is he off? Like, is he asexual? Usually by this time, guys, I can tell, are wanting to get into my pants, wanting to do this, wanting to get my time. And here he is, he hasn't even asked me out yet. And it's like, she's like, I can't get a read on this guy because he's so fucking different than the hundreds of guys. Hey, what's up? Hi. What are you doing? WYD. And just like enough to like make her roll her eyes multiple times through the back of her head. And so, when an anomaly shows up and is, he's unaffected, it kind of pokes into that primal, okay? I remember from what I was reading you, there's this primal thing. It's an instinctual thing that kind of like perks up, because it's been asleep for all those guys, just perfectly asleep. And this one guy kind of wakes up that primal nature, and it's like popped up, say, hey, what's that? What's that over there? Let's go sniff it. Let's go check it out. And then you realize that she has no control in the situation. And that makes her even more interested. She's like, wait a second. Even before I even say hello, I look down and I've got the reins in my hand. It's like, wait, how did that happen? And then the second he says hello, in the way he does, it's confirmed that the reins are in her hand. In fact, both hands. And she's like, damn. Well, at least he's cute. And I think he's got a good job. So maybe, I haven't been with a guy in a while. You know what? I'll give Jeffrey here, I'll give him a go. I'll take him out for a spin. But just on loan, I'm not committing, I'm not signing the document and handing over a down payment. We'll just kind of like rent it for a little while. And, because she knows he's not him. Like girls know who he is inside. And they know when they've met someone who's like from the same kind of species. Okay. It's like in the family of amphibians. Okay. In the group of amphibians. I don't know, what is that, like class, right? Or phylum? I don't remember. But, so yeah, it's not species. Kingdom? Phylum? I don't remember that shit. Bonus points if you remember all those things. But yeah, you realize that he is from this different phylum, let's call it that. And it's the amphibians. And it's not like the mammals over here. And you're like, okay, this guy is different. Okay. And my fantasy guy, like the guy from The Secretary or Tyler Durden, or Daniel Craig, right? He is of the amphibian class of creatures, but only in my head. And this guy that I've just started interacting with kind of reminds me of those dudes who just get my insides going, my butterflies, my brain ticking, my pussy wet or jumping at least, and he's like real. And they're like, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Yes. What was it? King Philip came over, I can't remember the rhyme, but it was like this. It was, to help you remember, it was some acronym about King Philip. Or maybe, was the S swimming? But yeah, thank you for that. So, of course, it's not about doing this sort of thing on purpose, because that's sort of the trap of talking about these things, isn't it? Okay, because if I'm sitting here saying, hey, this archetypal stuff, this type of archetypal stuff is what really grabs a girl, right? It charges them up. It makes them like, oh, wow, And even part of BDSM is part of that, okay? Because to be a good dom, you cannot be, thrown off by your emotions. You can't, you can't be following her whims or her emotions. Like, you kind of have to be somewhat cold in a way. And you kind of have to be sort of like at least having your emotions tamed such that you're okay with like whipping the shit out of her ass, like making her cry, doing these sort of things that are consensual, but that we grow up understanding like, hey, this is not the way you're supposed to treat somebody. But they're saying, yes, treat me that way. I want to be treated that way. I trust you to treat me that way. Go ahead, twist the throttle. I don't mind. And if I do mind, we have a safe word set up. So it's cool. Just go. And so, that kind of sets that up. Like it creates that feeling. Now, if you've got, say, like a 24/7 dynamic, you can maintain that feeling of this person who's grounded, who's a bit distanced from his own emotions. He's not wrapped up into shit. He's certainly not following her. He kind of keeps things straight and narrow. This is in itself like basically her feeling this almost all the time. Okay. And the way I talk about it is kind of like, if you look at dynamic, like the energy of a feel all the feels, and you get to be all the beings or whatever, like a lake. And if you were to walk in, say like up to your neck or completely submerged, that's for like something that's really intense. Okay, where she's being pushed to something that's really intense, you are as well. There's sort of a lot of imagination. There's been planning, like all that stuff. Okay. What I like to do is basically at all times keep her in like ankle deep water. She never truly gets out. She never completely walks out of the lake. She's always just ankle deep or calf deep into the water at all times. So there's this sense of like, and this is what I mean by the 24/7 dynamic, okay, where there's a power differential all day long, every single day. And, but it's not intense, right? There's not like harsh protocol, but there's this general sense of like, I'm over here, you're over there. We are not equal. We're not like in this like shared thing. There's no democracy sort of thing going on here. It's not egalitarian. And there's, quite a bit of trust going on there, for that. Okay. Because we're saying like, hey, I'm trusting myself to trust you that everything is going to be okay. And I'm not going to reach for control. I'm going to allow you to be in control and guide and create how you see fit. So you keep that going the entire time in like just a very subtle way, just this understanding, like that basic understanding that's like, I'm over here, you're over there. I'm going to follow you, you're going to lead, like that sort of thing. What'd you say here, Dylan? Come to think of it, Mr. Justin, the best sex I ever had was when the woman said to me, I just can't figure you out. I can't get a read on you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even like it can go even further. For example, like if you, I had a show about sadism, and if you bring out your inner sadist, but in a playful way, this sort of thing is like, it goes along with the whole mystery thing, right? So, and we all have been doing it. Like when you were a kid and you were like in elementary school and you liked the girl, but you didn't have the wherewithal to really admit that to yourself, but instead you like picked on her, but you thought she was cute. That's being sadistic. Like pulling her pigtails to enrage her, that's being sadistic, right? It's a spectrum. And so playing pranks, fucking with her head, teasing her, all sorts of stuff. This is all sadistic. And I encourage guys to exercise your inner sadist. Because I think it's in us. I wouldn't say like every guy, but more than you think. Like if you consider it in the way that I'm describing, where it's just like regular everyday stuff that we used to do when we were kids, like teasing each other, that's being sadistic, because the whole the whole idea is that I want to create discomfort within you, but it's not malicious. It's not truly malicious. There's something else there, either attraction or friendship or something along those lines. So it modifies it. Okay. And so, like if you're seeing a girl, like you just started seeing her, don't be afraid to bring out that inner sadist in like teasing her and maybe creating some sort of double bind, where she kind of is like screwed either whatever choice that she goes with, she's kind of compromised. And this can be done in humorous ways. It can be done in like physical ways or emotional ways. But the whole notion is that you're playing. This is something that like a psychopath would do, right? They would play with their food, right? Like cats are kind of psychopathic because, you know, like a dog, if they see something, some sort of prey, they'll hunt it down or whatever, and they'll just start chowing down and they'll eat it and it'll be done in like 4 seconds. Okay. The cat, the little fuckers, they'll toy with it. They'll make it think like the animal can run away because that's fun for them. They're like, ooh, it thinks it's getting away. Let's get chasing after it again, you know? And so it like entertains itself with the suffering of some other creature. And that, like, it's like the mouse is like 2 legs are broken. It's like pulling itself along the floor with one thing. Its tail is like twitching and shit. And it keeps fucking batting it around until it really can't move anymore. And then it just kind of sits there looking at it like, come on, you got a little bit more in you. I know you got some more in you. I want to play more. You're like, no? Okay, fine. Then it kind of like settles down and decides to like bite its head off, you know, and then like eat it and all that shit. But yeah, cats are sadistic, but in the spirit of the cat, you play with your food. And it's okay to play with your food for a number of different reasons. And for one, it shows, I don't care if I offend you. I don't care if you're here or not. I'm not here to try to keep you here. And I'm not going to put in extra special effort because you're here. I'm just going to be me. In fact, I'm going to play around with you. I'm going to fuck with your head. I'm going to play with your words. I'm going to tease you. I'm going to make you feel a little embarrassed. Okay, maybe a little turned on. And teased. I mean, like teasing someone, it's almost like degradation. It's just toned way the fuck down. Okay? Like degrading someone, degrading a girl is kind of like teasing her. But you've turned up the volume quite a bit, right? On the level of the teasing where it becomes, you know, you take it out of the context and you're like, damn, you're like really verbally laying into this person and insulting them, like down to the core. So yeah, get into the spirit of teasing. And because it says to her, I don't give a shit. I'm not here to perform for you or make it so you don't, dismiss me. I don't care. I don't care at all. And in fact, I'm going to have fun. That's how much I don't care. I'm going to have fun with all of this. And so that sends a signal to her, a signal of arousal that's attractive, that you not caring. Because the guy who cares too much, that's like, guys think the accountability is kryptonite to women. No, a guy who really, really, really fucking likes them is kryptonite. And like displays it, shows it. Okay. You know, I love my girl. She's great. But I can guarantee that if, like, say, like an older, former self of mine were to express everything and like ride on that, she would get disgusted immediately. You know, and I don't avoid doing this sort of thing to prevent the disgust. That's the problem, okay, with learning about all this stuff, is that you end up performing to get to a certain point. I just don't do it because I don't do it. It's like, you know, what? You know, like certain big cats, like some big cats, some roar and some purr. Okay, so like lions can roar, but they can't purr. Cheetahs can purr, but they can't roar. Tigers, I don't know, can they do? I can't remember which. I think they can roar, but they can't purr. But it's sort of like that. Like I no longer purr, okay, or I no longer roar. And there's a complete paradigm shift. So the thing is about me talking about this stuff, teaching guys about these things, is that you're like, okay, now I've got something to learn, something to mimic, something to be, and or something to try out, right? Like, let me try out being cold, okay? Let me try out being sadistic. And the problem with that is that you are wearing these things like a jacket. And then like Mr. Rogers, you come home at the end of the day, you take off that jacket, you hang it up, you put your shoes in the closet, and now you're somebody else. You're back to being, who you've been. And that's where it becomes problematic. Okay. And because you don't want to be able to shift yourself all the time. The idea is that you want to be authentic. Okay. And the thing is like, well, yeah, they'll say, well, my authentic self is a real turnoff to girls. Okay. And I would argue that's not your authentic self. If you've been in class before, we've talked about that. We've talked about your assumed identity. And it's really just a collection of stories. It's not really you. Because you didn't decide it. It's all been stuff these stories were collected and sort of melded together without your consent and partly without your awareness, long before you even consciously thinking about these things. So you have these stories about yourself based on experiences and other influencers of who you are. And I think it's only fair that we should decide who we are, not just be some sort of like accident that happened. And you say, well, I'm just the result of a bunch of different things happening. Like, sure, like those things matter to a certain degree, but did you choose? And so this is why the just be yourself when dating really falls flat, because that self is something manufactured. That self is based around pains and fear, has certain injuries, beliefs, perceptions that are not helpful. And so, that self that you've got, it's really just a bunch of crap, it really is. Just be careful, because when you start delaminating that thing from your soul, you will reach a pretty dark place where it kind of feels empty. And that's the beginning of the beginning, where you're like, wait a second, who the fuck am I? Like, this does not feel comfortable at all. It's kind of scary. It kind of hurts. And that's okay, right? That's the beginning. The Gnostics called it the Negredo. That's the first stage. And Carl Jung was a fan of that stuff as well. But, that's why you can't be yourself in dating, because yourself sucks. And that's no criticism. It's to say that it's not something that you created. That's why it sucks. You're just wearing it. Like somebody like kind of did like a patchwork jacket and then gave it to you as a hand-me-down and said, here you go. This is you. And you're like, wait, what? And then you were just like, okay. And you put it on. And until someone brings it to your self-awareness that you're wearing this patchwork jacket that you didn't construct, or wasn't based on your choices, then you're like, okay, now I'm starting to question who I am, because this person brought this to my attention and saying, wait, is that your jacket? Did you make that? Are you sure? But, I think it's a healthy place to be in a state of doubt. Okay. Because that's how you get to certainty. You can't start with certainty. How? How do you start with certainty? That I don't understand. This is why I have problem with people who have great faith. Because a lot of times they start with certainty. And it's like, wait a second. Like, how did you get there? And people will answer this in ways like, well, I know that I know because I know. It's like, okay. Okay. But doubt, and feeling that darkness of doubt, feeling the void when you have doubt, that's where transformation begins. When you're able to go up to that cliff's edge and look down. In movies, that used to scare the shit out of me. Like, or the thought of it, even when I was a teen, the idea of being very, very deep in the ocean, okay? And say you're like in like a deep sea suit, or you're like one of those small submersibles, and you get to this edge of this like a, you know, like a rock cliff edge, and you're looking out, and it's just nothing. Just nothing but dark, black fucking water. Like nothing for going straight and nothing going down. It just gets darker, you know? And just the idea of me being in that situation used to like freak the fuck out of me. Yeah, it was very uncomfortable just thinking about that concept. But that's kind of what happens like that. But that's the opportunity. That's what doubt does. That's what radical doubt does. It brings you to that edge. Okay. And it's like, do you have the balls to step forward? You know, or you're like, no, I'm going to go back to these, like, yes, I know they're manufactured. Yes, I know they're made of plastic, but I know what they are. So I'm going to hold on to them because that feels safer, more known and settled than something vastly unknown. Okay, that's fine. You know, we don't have to twist each other's arms, okay, to go into the void. You know, and this is why a lot of this stuff is all just based around invitation. Okay. Just a few days ago, I had like some, like, I don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses or evangelists knocking on my door. I fucking hate that shit. That's not an invitation. Like they try to pass it off as an invitation, but it's not. Like, they're trying to feed me, right? And so I'm into the invitation. I'm not feeding any submissive like what I am. Okay, I might present it. I might and then invite her into this sort of thing, just like, you know, the lady who's standing out there in front of the Chinese restaurant in the mall food court, and there's little bits of the, you know, the sesame chicken with a toothpick, and so I'll taste that, and she's like, "Oh, you want to buy a full meal?" So that's the idea, the invitation, little taste. You like that? Okay, you can come in here, and you can purchase a full meal. But that's, you know, that's what it should be like. Okay. Like when you're really doing this correctly. Okay. It just, whether it BDSM or not, it doesn't matter. It all should be an invitation. So you should never really find yourself trying to do something, because that means you're extending. Okay. And every time you extend, that leaves openings, that shows that leaves for, I don't want to say vulnerability, but in the sense of like, you know, if you ever go for, well, Dylan, if you're still here, you'll understand. Like when you're going for a particular, particular move in jiu-jitsu, whenever you reach for something, you invariably create openings. Okay. Or in boxing, like every punch thrown, that leaves an opening. You raise your hand, that exposes your ribs. You know, it's like it's inevitable. And so you have to be wary of that. Okay, and the most advantageous place to be is in the invitation. And this is why, if you ever watch like, you know, pro black belt like jiu-jitsu players, it's very, very boring. Because they're both inviting, they're both waiting, right? With the invitation, like, hey, you're welcome to make the first move. It's on you. I insist. You know, and they're both saying that. They're both bowing and saying, I insist. No, but I insist. And that's why they just butt scoot forever. But anyways, but that's how it should be for a man, right? Where you are just inviting. You invite them to come play. Okay. You invite them to come sit down. Okay. Never really reaching out, never really reaching for her. And we're talking energetically. Okay. We're talking with your attitude, with your mindset, where your heart is, where your soul is. You're not reaching for anything. You are still. Okay. Now that doesn't mean your actions never happen. It's not like an action stillness. It's an inner stillness. And so, yes, you can say, hey, here's my number. I'd like to do this. I'm doing this on Saturday. It'd be great if you could join me. It's simple shit, right? Really, really simple stuff. It doesn't have to go very far, but always a calm invitation. And what was the other thing I wanted to mention? Yeah, I just want to kind of like reiterate the idea of thinking that you need to copy some of this stuff. Okay, like copy, being like one of these movie characters with these stoic attitudes, or any of this thing, because the idea is that, like, well, you'll just do it of getting girls, right? When that's really where you should be focusing. Okay, so if you're out here, you're looking for experience, and you're like typing like, okay, psychopaths get a lot of attention from girls. So what are the characteristics of psychopaths? So I can look into that and perhaps like try to mimic this and see what happens. Okay, when that's not really your problem, because you think my problem is I'm not getting the girls that I want. Okay, and really the problem is the wanting in the first place. That's your biggest issue. Because if that had a different framework, if the root of that was growing from a different place, all of your behaviors and your choices afterwards would be completely different. Because it's like, okay, I want to learn these skills so that I can gain the girls that I want, so that I can really feel more valuable, so I can feel important, so I can feel desired. Okay, and then it's like, well, let's look at the root of that. Why do you want to feel desired? Why do you want to feel wanted? Why is that so special to you on an emotional level? Okay, it's not like, it's like the goal for the week or something like that, where it's very objective. It's an emotional thing. It's an emotional goal to want to feel wanted. And it's like, well, why is that? Was there a period in time when you didn't feel wanted? Or when you're not feeling wanted, what does that do to you? What does that mean? Is that part of like a belief of yours, that it means that if I'm not wanted, then I'm not lovable, that nobody loves me? And if nobody loves me, what does that mean? That my existence doesn't matter. Okay. Well, if your existence doesn't matter, well, what does that mean? And then, you're faced with the greatest existential question of like, why am I here? What's the whole fucking point? So it's easy to kind of wash these feelings with some warm water of girls, right? The warm presence of a girl can make this all go away, and I can feel better about myself and feel better about life. And it's, apparent lack of any sort of meaning. So really, it's not about like, how do I get the girl? It's about, why are you even in this place to begin with? I don't mean this place is like existence, but I mean in the place of asking for it. How are you there at all? And that's a question much more fulfilling, much more constructive to answer. All right. And if you land on a simple answer, like, oh, well, because I like sex and I want to have more sex, you're not digging deep enough. You're not really trying to understand it. You just want to give yourself a quick answer so you can kind of move past the uncomfortable truths that are actually sitting inside you. But I promise you that if you face that stuff, then all of your perceptions, your beliefs, and your behaviors will shift. They'll shift completely. And like, what was the post that I did today? There was something along those lines. Oh, this here. If you want to be visible to women, first be visible to yourself. But once you're visible to yourself, you will no longer care whether you're visible to women. Because that was the main reason why you wanted to be visible to women, is because you weren't visible to yourself. You needed it from somewhere else. And then once you deal with that and you start become only visible to yourself, you're just like, everyone else's perception it just gets snipped and it just flies away. This is what I'm talking about, like the NPC stuff. Oh yeah, there you go, Wicked. I've had this, everyone is an NPC to me for the longest time. I'm glad I'm not the only one, especially when I'm at work. I just yeah. And it's just this like relaxed detachment and realizing that like no one really matters, but not in like a disdainful way, not a bitter sort of way, not a vengeful sort of way, just no way. It's just like neutral, like utter neutrality. And so not good, not bad, just completely neutral. And that's where, that to me is like the best place to be. Not smoldering, not on fire. I'm sorry, smoldering, not on fire, not extinguished. You're just smoldering in the middle, like incense, okay? Or like a cigar cherry. But yeah, I just don't want guys to really think that mimicking is the way. The way is, why are you thinking about mimicking? Like, why are you even here on this channel or any channel? Right? You're looking for an answer, right? To get the thing. But really, you should be looking at, well, why am I chasing these answers in the first place? And that will bring you to more truth than anything that's between a woman's legs. None of her holes will bring you any kind of truth. Not a shred. Sorry, they're just little wet holes. That's it. But the irony is that you can, by engaging with said holes, you can bring her to her truth. That's a funny thing, isn't it? Yeah, that's a funny thing. A lot of this stuff is found in ironies, the unexpected twist, the opposite of what you'd think it is, or like what we've learned. It's like everything's the opposite. Like Stranger Things in the Upside Down, right? Like I'm living in the Upside Down, and I'm like, but this is the real reality. Like all that shit that like looks fun and like it's in the right place and all this stuff. No, that's not the real reality. That's the manufactured one. Yes, you are to tune to yourself. Yep. Yes, Gerard. But yeah, the real shit is not really what was learned and what everybody has agreed upon or whatever. It's really not. It's really not. But the thing is though that like, when you're not as dialed into all that stuff as far as your behavior and how you see yourself, this is, when the beginnings of showing up authentically. And this is what really becomes, intoxicating to girls, right? Because unfortunately, but also fortunately, like just because of relationships and dynamics and, how fun they can be. But unfortunately, girls are shouldered with the challenge of showing up authentically. I think they have much more barriers psychologically and emotionally to showing up authentically than we do. And perhaps that's because we've got a male-built world, so perhaps we can show up into it with less judgment, okay? I think that, like, let's say on another planet in a parallel dimension, Earth was dominated by women in the way that it was dominated by men. Like, they made the infrastructures. They created farming, like all this stuff, all right? And they were able to fully express their sexuality without judgment. It was just like the way we can, all right? Like we can, well, yeah, I mean, we can really express ourselves, not completely, but far more than a girl can, without judgment. It takes us exposing quite a bit of who we are and what we're holding before judgment hits us. Okay, even like how I've come out with some of the things that I do, and I've expressed everything, but like all of my interests, but I've expressed a great deal of my kinks, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, okay, we get it, But if a girl were to come out and say, you know what, I really love getting slapped. I really love getting pissed on. I love getting like my man spitting in my face. Whatever. I love drinking his pee. Any sort of thing. Okay, that will get heavily judged. But imagine a parallel world where it's not. Okay. And be very different. All right. But because we don't live in that world, girls have many layers of just their sexuality. There's other parts. It's not just their sexuality. Other parts of their being that have just all these layers that they cannot get through to authenticity. So I think that's why, or part of the reason why, when she comes across a guy who's not hiding, and she's like, I found one that's not hiding. Like, what's that like? Like, and then through your presence, through your kind of presence and the emotional and psychological safety that you provide. And this comes in many different ways, but one of a major one is the lack of judgment. Okay. That's a big one. That then she can kind of get this idea of like, oh, I can kind of show up differently. I can show up a little bit how I want to. Okay. I can bring out some of these things that I hide from everyone, and some of it that I even hide from myself. Like, I've heard about it, I've like read about it, but I've never really experienced it. So I'm going to let this out even for myself for the first time. And that can be like a holy shit moment. Okay. And so, she can gain a lot of freedom from following your authenticity, but within your world, your little closed world. And it's incredibly freeing and very intoxicating for her. But it's good for her, right? This is, it's part of development, and how we grow, and will make her very much connected to you, because you become a conduit for her authenticity, and then you can fuck with her. So after she's been very authentic with you about a certain thing, and then you get her to admit, like, let's say you've discovered that she likes a certain kind of kink. Okay. And then you say, oh yeah, I know. Like, let's say you played around, like you did that kink, and you say, oh, you really liked that, didn't you? And she's like, yes, I really liked that. I've wanted to do that for a long time, and never did it, thought about it all the time. And, now, like, because of you, thank you, like, I was able to experience it. And you're like, experience what? and he's like, oh, like the thing we did last night. What thing was that? My memory is failing me at the moment. I'm an older gentleman, so bear with me. Can you remind me specifically what it is that we did? And you like get her, like, see, this is the playful sadist, getting her to admit and say out loud. You're like, she types it, you're like, I appreciate you typing that out for me. Thank you for reminding me, but it would just sound so good if you were to just put that in a little voice note for me. Why don't you try that right now? And she's like, no, come on. Like, no, just do it. Trust me, it'll feel great. And it does. Like, it does, and it doesn't. It's bittersweet. Okay. To verbally say, like, I loved it when Daddy did XYZ. Okay. Or he allowed me to experience XYZ. And, then having her to expand more on how it felt, how it makes her feel now, and these sort of things. Okay. This is important because now it's like you're taking something that was normally hidden, okay, to now something where she's able to bring it out and experience it, But it's still dovetailing with this feeling of shame. Okay. Because that's where it started, right? Before she met you, that like this kink or whatever, there was shame around it. That's why it was hidden. I don't want people to judge me, that sort of thing. I judge myself. Like, I can't believe I would love for a man to do this thing to me. You know what I mean? And now in your accepting container, she's able to experience this. And so there's still that trail, that emotional trail of shame. And like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing this. You know, there's that shame, you know, that little part of her mind judging that part of her still. And so you can start transmuting this for when you start teasing her about it, making her talk about it. Oh, I loved it so much when you allowed me to do this, or you did this to me, and got into detail about it. How did that make you feel? Oh, it made me feel really good. I was a little scared, or I was a little uncomfortable, or whatever, but it made me feel so alive. And then afterward, I felt so connected to you, and it was just amazing. You know, and have her like go on, you know, open up about and just really flesh out and describe and almost like relive the emotions that she was experiencing from that thing from like last night. So now you're bringing in a new emotion to the experience of this thing, versus before, say, coming into your container before meeting you. It was this belief. It was this thing that she never experienced before that had this feeling of shame attached to it. So it was all like illusory stuff, but it felt real, and it changed certain behaviors, certain thoughts, like, right? It was just an illusion though. You bringing into it a reality, okay? And then making her talk about it, and then transmuting the shame by bringing in new emotions to the action that was, you know, at one point an illusion. Now it's a real action that's been done, and you're putting in new emotions, and then you add in your own stuff for reinforcements. Like, yeah, when you were blah, 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 it was so fucking sexy just to see you like this, or to hear you doing this, watching you, and you get descriptive of like what your experience was of going through this, you know, this scene or this kink with her. Then that's reinforcing on top of it, right? Of this feeling of her, like admitting how it made her feel good. Okay. But then it's also, you're kind of teasing her at the same time. That's where the sadist part comes in, because you're kind of teasing her a little bit. They're poking fun of the fact that she really enjoyed this despicable thing, right? Like, let's just say it's a despicable thing. And she'll feel embarrassment and so on. But now, because it's within your container, it's not just raw embarrassment or raw judgment. It's coming from you. So it has a different angle to it. It feels completely different. So when I like degrade my sub, it's not pure, like unfiltered degradation. Okay. Because that's just straight cruelty, right? It's not that. It's behind it. It's me doing it. And it has a specific purpose. And I want to, there's no real malice generating behind the degradation. Not real malice. Okay. Just a little, just malice, just shavings, like a cheese grater. Okay. Little shavings of malice. Okay. But that's just the sprinkling garnish, right? It's not really the thing that's behind it. Okay. And so you can use that and like tease her and make her feel a little embarrassed about this, right? Which is a good thing, right? Because that's kind of sexy, because girls are crazy. You know? And once you just accept that and you can play around with it, it allows you to play around with it even more. Like, the more you accept that, like, just these girls are crazy, and you don't judge them for it, and you're just like, hey, okay, like, you know, usually you turn a knob, it's like 0 to 10 going like clockwise, but for some reason, that knob on her head, it's like 10 to 0 going clockwise. You're like, don't try to figure it out. Just know that that's how the knob works. Okay. You know, like you ever go to someone's house and they have the electrical switch the wrong way? Like, for me, the switch going up turns it on, down goes off. And you like press it, it's like reverse. You're like, what the fuck? Like, you don't try to figure it out. You just accept the fact that that's how it is. Okay? Down is on, up is off. I don't know. Some people are crazy. But yeah, you just accept they're fucking crazy. That this playful degrading makes them wet. It turns them on, you know? And you might want to sit there and go, oh man, like that's low self-esteem, and like, oh, they must fucking hate themselves, like, oh, they're so fucked up, and like this, blah, 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 and trying to get like clinical about these things. And it's like, dude, that's not going to get you anywhere. Okay? Like, if you want to get clinical about women, that's great, but don't expect them to like you. Don't expect them to like you at all, right? Because that doesn't turn people on. Okay. You know, my clients, when I'm like picking apart their brain in real time and showing them their mirror, that doesn't signal them a desire to be like a close friend of mine. All right. The initial thing is to put up walls. I mean, like, hey, I don't like being analyzed. I don't like how that feels to be like picked at, you know, with a comb. I don't like this. So it's going to put the girl on defensive. Okay. But what you can do, if you are perceptive, you do understand these psychological things, you're mindful of behaviors and patterns, you can play with them. You know, that's what a sadist would do. That's what a psychopath would do. A psychopath would play with its food like the cat plays with the mouse. Because to the cat, the mouse is already dead. It just doesn't know it yet. And that's a good thing, because that means I can play more. Yeah. I don't know what it was, you know, but like when I had met, and it's not always like this, but you know, when I had met my sub, I was like, she's dead already. Like, it was just a knowing. I was like, she has already been eaten. It's just a matter of time. And then you can just sit back and relax. It's not always like that, but I think the mentality should be that. You know, because that prevents you from really chasing around. You can utilize the situations better from a more calm position. Okay. I think I'm going to pull this to a close. It's almost 11:30. And I don't want to get rambling here, because I could probably just go on and on, but I think it'll get circular after a while, because that's what happens with everything. All right. Well, thank you for dropping by and sharing this time with me. If you have any questions, please go to thedominance.academy.com and you can send me an email through the website, or sign up for your free consultation, the big button in the top right of the corner of, I think, pretty much every page that's on there. Okay. And so sign up for your free consultation. We can get talking. And what did you say here, Mark? Mark Forever. Are there specific answers to be found in a general way, some sort of milestones, or is it just whatever is specific to me? I'm not sure. But if you want to talk more about that, just sign up for a free consultation, thedominance.academy.com. And let's see here. Oh, yes. So I'm waiting for my bank to approve the Kindle Amazon relationship. It takes like, what did it say? 48 to 72 hours for that stuff to kind of work itself out. And then I will have the ability to get a paperback version of How to Be a Dominant Lover. It'll also be a Kindle version. And then the Codex of a Sovereign Dominant. That's going to be available. And then the submissive version, okay, the ancient scriptures for the submissive, that will also be ready, but that's not quite done yet. I'm still working on that one. But that'll be ready. So look out for the announcements. Look out for the announcements on these things, and please, make your way over to Amazon and grab up some stuff. Hopefully it'll be ready before the holiday. That would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, guys, thank you so much I appreciate you here, and I appreciate those who are watching on the replay. Thank you very much. I'm out of here.